you presenting item number 8? Is that Our Father in heaven, we thank you tonight for the birth of our Savior in your perfect plan and sovereignty. We thank you for this town and its beauty and the peace and safety that we enjoy. We thank you for putting us in a position to have custody of this town, and may we do so solemnly and understand the gravity of taking care of taxpayers' possessions. And we thank you for all our people and just the good people that we have that are working for us, and continue to keep us safe in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. As a reminder, our AV system is down, but we will need to speak up from up here when you do speak, because the sound that we do have is going through the phone for the live stream. Correct?
People on live stream can hear.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And there will be no public comment. There's no one in attendance tonight. Hopefully there are people on the live stream that are listening in. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Next. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Our next item, it's under new business. Philip is going to present this item regarding an amendment to the budget. That's under consent agenda. I almost did the same thing before the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only item on the agenda tonight is an approval of fiscal year 23-24 budget amendments, and not our current fiscal year, but the previous fiscal year, for an overage in October for Founders Day expenses. Just a little bit of background. Founders Day had a budget in that year of $50,527 for fiscal year 23-24. $67,806 was actually expended instead. This is a budget amendment in order to cover that overage. The auditors, when they do their audits, they look back at previous fiscal years. That's why they're looking on the current, the 2023 fiscal year. And budget amendments are fairly common. They did go to see a rectification of this item. It's not a total budget overage for our entire budget, but for this particular Founders Day line. And it will be balanced with revenue from program services, which are all of the recreation department services that they hold over the course of the year. So this includes what they get from revenue from Founders Day, but also rentals of Roger Spencer Center and different things like that. So those revenues will be put towards this to balance that part of the budget. So at the end of the day, we'll be reporting basically less revenue in order to balance part of it. So although budget amendments are sometimes common, we do want to ensure accuracy in our budgeting process. So we will be working closely with staff and just on the, at the administrative level, working to make sure that we're reviewing this very tightly moving forward, better budget and particularly forecast costs. Now, we did have a conversation about where these overages came from, why some of them were unexpected, and they did come from some unexpected expenses. The bulk of them were in a stage that was not anticipated to be needed, but needed to be purchased. That was around $5,000. They had ordered a dance floor that did not actually suit our purposes, so they had to pre-order for expensive dance floor for activities that were planned that day. That was around $3,000. They needed to upgrade the audio AV capabilities at Founders Day that day for the bands. They did not anticipate that, so the current vendor was not able to supply those AV needs. They had to spend an additional amount, around $5,000 for audiovisual upgrades or audio upgrades for the bands. And it was noted that there was a deposit for the Ferris wheel that was also unaccounted for, one of the runs, and that was around $5,000. So those were the kind of enumerated items that were unexpected when we had a conversation as to particularly kind of the breakdown.
But it's just less of a surplus overall in the recreation.
That is correct. That's where we're transferring that. So there was an overage in this amount, but we did have we did take in more revenue from recreation than was budgeted.
Is there any discussion or other questions?
I hesitate to ask this question, but did the council approve all of those overages? What's the right word I'm looking for those additional costs at that time? Because as they went into it, they found they had more costs, like you just explained, with the larger stage and the auto system and everything. I'm getting old, but did we as a council approve those additional expenditures?
I didn't pull each of those individual items. Usually for items that are over the, a budgeted amount and they're over $5,000, they typically do need to come from council. Some of these items, I don't know if any of these items were over that amount. They may have been within basically the departmental and management level ability to purchase. But certainly if there's a budget overage like we're experiencing now, that needs to be approved by council regardless of if individual amounts did or did not. But I don't know for sure if any of these came in front of council. I believe some of these were perhaps just under the threshold. Meeting.
Right.
Good. Well, to his point, maybe we need to be practice a little bit more oversight over unexpected costs.
Absolutely.
It sounds like that's a lot. That was a lot of unexpected costs, that some of which should have been better planned for. They could have been expected.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our big things too is ensuring that we're, again, forecasting accurately what costs we'll have. And we want to make sure that we are not accounting for revenue that would come from sponsorships that we don't have, right? So not just simple costs, but if we say, oh, we're wanting to take on this cost because we believe we're going to get this much in revenue from sponsorships, it might be best to just budget irrespective of what we think we're going to get from sponsorships, so that we're not reliant upon sponsorships coming in, not coming in, because that year we did have a $5,000 sponsorship that did not come through that we were anticipating. So we're going to be working on budgeting irrespective of what we believe we're going to get in sponsorship. We'll budget an amount, stick to that budgeted amount, try and be much more accurate about that. And what we get from sponsorship simply offsets that.
Or as you would do in the private world, you just budget very carefully, and you expect less than you expect. You write down be less, and then just gotta be careful as opposed to being not reckless, but not paying as much attention as should have with expenses.
I have a quick question. So I'm assuming that the budget for a future years based off of the previous years, but because that's how we usually do things. Is there a contingency that's also added for adjustments with inflation? We know that things do go up, and I would hate to create a budgeted item based off of last year's prices, and that's not this year's prices.
We should, as department heads, when we create budgets, that should, any kind of level of contingency that we believe may occur, whatever number you see in front of you for a budget, should include what we believe to be increased cost of inflation, any kind of, contingencies unexpected for dollar amounts. That's incumbent upon us as department heads to put that information in.
So this was for the 2023, 2024 Founder's Day budget. Can we anticipate any issues with the 24, 25, that one that we just had?
Brandon's in discussion just because this is something obviously that's been brought to light through the audit process. We're wanting to be proactive for that budget year too, and Brandon's working with staff to ensure that we're taking.
All right, so at the end of the day, it's just less of a surplus than we thought. So it's not like it's money that's unidentified. So I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023-2024 Founder's Day budget amendment for the additional $17,500, which also increases the general. It doesn't do that.
Well, it increases the budget.
Okay.
It does increase.
Okay, thank you. All right, which also increases the general fund budget by the same amount.
There a second?
Second motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 4-0. Thank you. Okay. No public comment again, I assume. Are there any staff comments? Hearing none. Are there any council comments?
I would just like to tell everyone, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other council comments? Before I forget, I want to just announce, I'm going to get to another topic here in a minute, but our next meeting, which is the day after New Year's Day, January 2nd, that council meeting will be canceled. So the next meeting that we will have will be January 16th. Town offices will be closed next week and January 1st. And tomorrow is a very special day.
Very special.
Miss Gloria will be 39, so be sure and wish her a happy 39th birthday. I wanted to, yes, ma'am. I wanted to share, hopefully the live stream that some are picking this up. We want to make sure we are keeping the public informed. And in our last election in November, we voted on 3 amendments. The first of those was related to House Bill 581, which deals with our taxes and how we receive revenue. And what it does is it caps the rate of tax increase according to the consumer price index, as opposed to what the value of our homes may be. For example, if you have a $300,000 home and the next year your home's value goes up 10% to $330,000. Well, the amount of increase that you are taxed on cannot go up that entire 30,000. It can only go up by the rate of CPI. Let's call it 3% for the sake of this discussion. So it could only go up to 309,000. And I'm looking around for somebody to catch my eye if I use a wrong example. So what that means is we are capped on any increase in value of homes, and then that revenue coming to pay taxes for our services. We try to run a very lean operation here. We try to be responsible with tax dollars, and this will then cap that. So we have to determine, well, what are our options to make sure we can continue to provide the same level of service. There are a few options. In that language on the amendment when we voted, one option was what they call an opt-out. Opt-out means a city council or a county commission or a county school board has the ability to literally opt out of what the voters just said they wanted, because it passed by 57-43 in Fayette County. So to opt out would mean we are going to say, voters, you passed this 57-43, but we don't believe you really understood what you were doing, so we're going to opt out of it anyway. I can say that that is not really, in meetings that we've had with the other cities in the county, that is not a popular notion. Some believe we should because they believe the voters didn't understand what they were voting on, but that is certainly not a unanimous opinion. Another option is raising the millage rate. It's not something we'd want to do, but it might be something that we're forced to do. We don't know yet. Another option would be to raise the millage rate and then have an increase in the homestead exemption corresponding, so there's less impact on homeowners. We are having to discuss all of these options now, because if you choose to opt out, you have to do so by, I believe, March 1st. And before you do so, you have to hold 3 public hearings before you can vote to approve an opt-out. I'm going to pause right there and say, have I missed anything about the core of the issue? Counselor, you're probably the best to tell me you missed an important aspect of this.
You are doing a fine job.
Okay. Thank you for your confidence in me. So we are still deciding with the other cities in the county. We want to do our best to be uniform and have some, hopefully, unanimity on what we do. So I want to just let everyone know that that's where we are. Is there some component of this in which multiple municipalities have to agree? We can do opposite things. One city in the county can opt out, one can say we're not opting out, right?
That's correct.
There's nothing contained within this where we, at the end of the day, have to say all of us agree to do this.
Correct.
It's only that we desire to try to do the same thing for the sake of some type of uniform nature for our county. So we're trying that. We've had 3 meetings with other mayors and the county, and that's kind of the direction that we are heading. Peachtree City had a town hall meeting, and about 40 people showed up and got a better idea of what is going on with this. I think the county may take it up in a public meeting. We encourage anybody who's concerned about this issue to come to us, ask about the details. It's a very complex issue. And at the end of the day, we want to provide the same level of service that we are currently providing, and all the while doing it with a fair and reasonable taxation formula. We don't know what that formula will be. It's highly likely that that formula will change by way of some type of millage change or some other type of revenue opportunity. But we're going down new territory for us. So I think that's all I have to say, but I do want to open it up to council members just to see if anybody has any comment, because they are aware of this topic.
Mayor, would you just clarify the issue with the homestead exemption?
Sure.
Is this in addition to those of us that have homestead with the county? If this would be an additional homestead exemption?
Okay. I'm gonna try.
Okay.
So and I didn't even mention the floss, and I probably should have, but I'll get to that in a little bit. On the homestead exemption, we don't want the burden of our tax revenue. In a perfect world, we don't want the burden of our tax revenue to be on our homeowners. So if we have to raise the millage rate, an option is to, at the same time, raise our homestead exemption. That way, if your taxes go up because of the millage rate, your homestead exemption, by it going up, you are saving some of those dollars to offset the taxing. And yes, we as a city can do that. Did I explain that properly?
But yes, you did, but it's also in order to answer Billy's question is, yes, this is an additional homestead exemption on top of what you're receiving now.
Yeah. And we would have to get state law to do that, correct?
State law.
State legislation
To be what?
For the homestead exemption.
Well, your homestead exemption is going to come in already if you don't do anything.
Correct, but to increase it.
But if you want to increase your homestead you have now, yeah, that would be through local legislation, correct?
Local legislation.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'll just briefly touch on floss, but I'm going to tell you from the start, we're not going to do it. The floss is another option that the state offered us, which is a floating local option sales tax. It's a bad idea. Because it puts more burden on, in places we don't want the burden to be. All right. Now, open it up again. Council, is there anything you guys want to share?
I would like to say, Mr. Mayor, that opting out is not an option for me. That would be, in effect, vetoing our voters' choice, which was to put this in place. And homeowners are the lifeblood of our town. And like you said, they need to be protected. They need the relief. And if it's another exemption that we need an extra homestead exemption, a special discount we need to give based on a criteria we come up with, that sounds good to me. And no one's in favor of higher taxes, but the revenue has to come from somewhere, and to do it the most fair way, I think, is what we're gonna do.
Anyone else?
I'll agree with Jeff.
I also agree with Jessica. I would also like to add that hopefully in the future, when these things come down the pipe, that we can get enough information to be able to inform our citizens of all the repercussions of anything that comes out ahead of time before they decide. It was kind of forced to us at the last minute, and we didn't have an option to be able to do that.
And we discussed that, and anytime there's a measure on the ballot, we have to be extremely careful because it can, if it crosses over into the line of us trying to influence the vote, then we are way out of our lane legally. So, but you're right, it's too bad there wasn't somebody or some group out there that could have educated the voters about what this amendment is. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you very much for giving me the time to do so. There is no need for executive session. It is 7:26, and is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.